Good afternoon. Today is October 12th, and this is the Oklahoma City Board of Appeals. Scott, would you go ahead and take roll, please?
Here.
Hatley? Here. Ron Roque?
Here.
Tommy Willis?
Here.
Patrice Zimmerman?
Here.
Jim McWhirter? Okay. All members present.
No, I've got the wrong agenda here. So today we have two cases. These are both continued, is that correct? Oh, approval of the minutes, okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of just waking up. I understand everybody's seen the minutes and had a chance to read them. Are there any questions or any additions, corrections? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Jim?
I'll second.
Jim and Ron.
So we just want to do an aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. So today, we don't have any new cases. So the continued cases are with the Mustang Public Schools. The first case is case number BOAB 2022-0002. This is an appeal of Charles Bradley, Superintendent of Mustang Public Schools, from a decision of the code official for noncompliance with Chapter 4, Section 423, supplement of the International Building Code 2015, as adopted by Oklahoma City, pertaining to the requirement for storm shelters for 9201 Southwest 59th Street. That's Prairie View Elementary School. Do you want to read the staff's evaluation?
Maybe page 8 there. Maybe. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, sorry. Okay, a couple more pages. Yeah, go on further to the back end. There you go, staff analysis. So the applicant's request pertains to the requirement for storm shelters to be provided for all new buildings or structures incorporating an educational use group under the 2015 IBC Section 423-4 supplemented. This requirement also states that storm shelter facilities must be provided with capacity to house the combined occupant load of students and faculty only for which the permit encompasses. The applicant has proposed the placement of modular classroom structures to house students on campus, but had no initial plans for adding storm shelters. Of course, we've since come back with that. The occupant load for new classroom use group E occupancies is calculated according to IBC Table 10,004.1.2 at 20 square feet per occupant. The applicant has proposed one structure for each location with 1,266 square feet of classroom space, which gives us a total occupant load of 64 students per location. The IBC 2015 states that storm shelters are to be constructed in accordance with the ICC 500, which would require 325 square feet of storm shelter area based on that 64 occupant load. I believe the current proposal for temporary shelters has 160 square feet per temp shelter. This is in addition, while the 2015 IBC code does allow for permitting of temporary uses when approved by the building official, it has been the policy of Oklahoma City Plan Review to deny these requests, being that all building permits are seen as permanent once issued, and as there is little means of enforcement triggered after the permit receives certificate of occupancy. So of course we've given a 30-day temp CO on these recently, on these classrooms. And part of the reason for being here is obviously to extend that. But the plan review staff finds no language as listed in the ICC 500 or the 2015 IBC which we interpret to allow for applicants' request to defer the construction of storm shelters. The plan review staff has allowed for the construction of the classrooms to begin while yet holding the certificate of occupancy pending the storm shelters or the engineer certification, as we had originally hoped. But the last ruling from the Board of Appeals, August 10th, has been to allow for the temporary 30-day certificate of occupancy pending either permitting and placement of the storm shelters or the return of applicant to the board for further extension of the temporary CO, provided they present a plan of action and timeline.
So I see the applicant is present. Would you mind stating your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name's Jason Pittenger. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Operations for Mustang Schools. Superintendent Bradley couldn't be with us this afternoon.
So can you tell us a little bit about your case?
Sure.
We're really mainly interested in what has changed since the last application and last time
Sure.
we met.
So if you recall the last meeting, I was fortunate enough for Chairman Lombardo to share with us some shelters that other applicants had used to kind of solve this problem. So we went back and we looked at what kind of shelters we could afford for Mustang, found a vendor, sent off some quotes to rent shelters from this vendor, got a price quote for shipping, etc. They sent us some documentation, which I think is in the packet, a letter from Texas Tech, dimensions, some other things with regard to the shelters that they have available to rent. And then working with Heath Tate with MA Plus Architecture, kind of went through some things to try to figure out all the documentation we needed to make sure that we were meeting the city's requirement. About 2.5 weeks ago, I learned that we had to have an Oklahoma certified engineer sign off on some documentation. So the last 2.5 weeks, I've been working to try to facilitate that through a guy named Curtis with KFC Engineering. And I kind of wanted to ask a couple of questions, if that's okay, based on an email that I received from Heath with regards to that specifically. So this is Curtis Greenwood, PESE, Associate Senior Structural Engineer with KFC Engineering, is the individual that we're working with to try to get signed off on the documentation that we've provided. But the question that I kind of wanted to ask as a result of things that have transpired here, this is Curtis again talking to Heath Tate, who's the principal at MA Plus Architecture. He said, I see that Austin Reed, he's with Cade Construction, so he's been our CM trying to work through this to find some solutions here. He said, I see that Austin is needing to get code compliance stated for a potential shelter at Mustang Public Schools. We'd be glad to cover this, but wanted to reiterate that we cannot sign/seal the design of the shelter, only our peer review letter stating we feel it is compliant based on a preponderance of supporting evidence. So the question is that what the city is requiring is a peer review letter stating that the engineer certified in Oklahoma feels that the structure is compliant based on a preponderance of supporting evidence, or is there something additional or something else that the city would require with regards to an Oklahoma certified engineer signing off on documentation to meet requirements of the city?
Yeah, so I'll speak for the city side. Of course, Mike may help me with his experience in the past, but the requirement for an Oklahoma certified engineer comes, I believe, both on the state side, but also I believe it's in our code supplement to Chapter 4 of the IBC, if I recall. Now, as far as whether or not we would allow a peer review document to take ownership, I mean, what are you thinking, Mike? I don't know if that's the intent of the language, but...
Yeah, I don't know, the state law requires that if you're in Oklahoma, then you have an Oklahoma seal to do work in Oklahoma. I don't know if this, apparently this person, that Stampy's, I don't know if he doesn't have a reciprocal certification with the state of Oklahoma, or if he can't get one in a timely manner, and so because, in my opinion, if
review.
a peer review kind of thing, because they're not permanent buildings.
And we may end up contacting the engineering board as well, just to be certain that they're fine with that. Part of this falls within their authority as well, so I want to make sure we're not stepping on their toes.
So from our standpoint, we're simply trying to meet the city's requirements, and for me, I'm not an engineer,
Yeah.
so I'm working with all of our partners that we've used in the past for bond issues to try to arrive at what is it specifically and exactly we need to provide the city to move forward with this. So I guess for the council, our long-term solution here, we're bringing a bond proposal in front of our voters in February, and a part of that bond proposal is elementary number 9. So we're hopeful that elementary will be built and ready to go for the 25-26 school year. So we'll get money next summer. We'll actually start the process of design in probably February or March, as soon as the bond passes. And the whole idea there is we would build the elementary in a place where it would pull student populations from 3 of our elementaries. 2 of those are Prairie View and Valley, which have the shelter. So ideally, we won't need these facilities for the 25-26 school year because we will have decreased the population in those schools such that we won't need that space for classrooms. So that's the long-term plan. As a result of that bond issue as well, there is a portion for safety and security. So we have afforded ourselves an option to potentially look at a standalone shelter that's permanent for Valley and Prairie View as well. We're just not sure on our projects list moving forward. Formal resolution is going to be next month to our board. That formal resolution will have the safety and security language and elementary number 9 language on it. So that's kind of the long-term solution, is to pull students out of those existing elementaries so that we don't need portable classroom space. We'll have enough classrooms in the structure itself. And at that point, it would be textbook storage or furniture storage or site storage at that point. That's the long term. So the short term, and just reading, hearing Mr. Wise and the staff analysis, it states on the paragraph 2, 325 square feet of storm shelter area. If you look at these shelters, the dimensions on the shelters are 20 by 8, which gives us 160 square feet. If we were to get 2 of those for each elementary, that would give me 320 square feet. But you need 325 square feet. So instead of getting 2 per school, I would have to look at getting 3 per school. And at $7,000 to freight them and then $4,000 a month, it's quite a pricey proposition for us for a short-term solution.
Well, let me, if I might say as well real quick, I don't know if we had the temporary proposed plan, the site plan. I wasn't sure if it showed 2 on there, but that may be new information that'll help.
Yep.
As,
So
as
that
far
again,
as 5 square feet, I don't think we're probably going to be too worried about that. That's probably within the error, the reasonable limits of how we measure the space.
okay.
So,
So
I don't think we would have any issue allowing just 2.
That's something along the lines of me making sure that I have the exact specifics that the city is looking for to move forward with this, because does it have to be an engineer that's Oklahoma certified that can seal it, or will the peer review letter work, or is there reciprocity with the North Carolina guy that designed it and built it and stamped it in North Carolina? I mean, I'm finding myself in a situation where I need to crystal clear what we need to make happen to move forward.
Well, as far as myself, for the board's knowledge, I think your argument for the peer-reviewed engineer stamp is probably enough as far as what I'm concerned. But
Okay.
I do think I need to contact the state engineer board as well.
Okay.
Because it is, that will fall
Makes
under
sense.
state law, so
Makes
I want to
sense.
make sure they're fine with it.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Scott, sorry, could I address that? I'm a licensed professional engineer in
Okay.
Oklahoma, and I maybe just try to speak to probably the intent of it was, I would imagine the engineer who designed the structure itself in North Carolina should be fine, and we would be fine with that. But what the city should be probably looking for is that it's properly sited, whether, I don't know if the manufacturer, if it's required to be anchored or
Yep.
if it, the way, you know, whatever the design engineer's requirements are for how it is cited, that's what your licensed professional engineer in Oklahoma would need to be able to address. That would be my assumption. I'm afraid if you call the board, you may get a strange answer, depending on how you ask it, but.
So then, if I may ask a question, if I'm working with Mr. Greenwood with KFC, then could I ask him to specifically address the anchor mechanisms and how it's cited at the facility, at the site itself, and speak to that in the peer review letter?
Yeah, well, it's not really a peer review at that point, but he's addressing how the product is being placed on the site.
Okay.
You know, whether that's a drawing that has some kind of anchoring, or if it's a specification of how, you know, how level it needs to be, or whatever that might be.
Okay.
He would need to address that in a document that has his seal on it.
Okay.
I would think that would meet the intent of what the city should be looking for.
So you just said that has his seal on it in the...
We're not asking him to seal the drawings, the design of the shelter. We're asking him to cite it correctly. That would be a civil engineer, a licensed professional civil engineer would be, or a structural, you know, would be looking at that.
I talked to the manufacturer of this facility yesterday, and I asked him how the tie downs were, and they have 2 auger tie downs that come with it. And I asked him, how do they certify that it's okay with FEMA? And he says they send down specific instructions and installation criteria of how that needs to be done, the site levelness and all that. And it's up to the local general contractor or whoever is installing that to verify that those are all done. So she's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's what
so
needs to be
you'd want
done.
your engineer to have a topographic map, you know, to show that it's
Okay.
level per the manufacturer's requirements, and then maybe a letter afterwards saying that he observed it after construction and it was designed per the specs, and he should be able to put his seal on that for the city.
Okay.
Technically, that's all part of the development center process. When they do the permit, it really has nothing to do with the board.
Okay.
This variance request, it's a matter of when you're doing your construction, the inspectors, and so Scott will be dealing with you on that,
Okay.
and then the chief building inspector.
Steve Davis.
I just don't want to waste anybody's time. I'm trying to, you know, make sure that all our dots are dotted and T's are crossed. So if that's the case, then I would presume it's 2 shelters we would ship and rent for each site to cover the capacity of students necessary. I would ask that we have some time to ship those and get them anchored per specifications that are signed off by an engineer. And I think there were some comments about February. If we were to do this no later, have it ready to go for inspection no later than the last day of January, then February 1st, we're ready for whomever from the city wants to come out and look at all of the documents or inspect it or whatever we need to do. And then again, it would be on site for February, March, April, May. Kids would be out of school in May. We would just leave them on site until the completion of elementary number 9 is the long-term solution there. At which point, we wouldn't need the portables any longer for student occupancy. And in fact, we might find ourselves in a position where with these 2 specific schools, we may be afforded an opportunity to shift some enrollments to where for school year 24-25, those portables may not necessarily be needed for occupancy in classroom space as well. But I can't make any promises. We're growing like weeds out. If anybody's been to Mustang recently, yeah, a lot of dirt out there, brown ground. So I think that, are there questions? Did I fail to address anything specific for the city?
I did have a question.
Sure.
So it would be your intent, I guess, after you no longer need these shelters, to go ahead and remove the portables? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
February 1st, or
Last day of January, yes. And that affords me then the time to finish with the engineer call US Hazmat, make sure that they've got units available. When I initially reached out to them, they did have units available, but they were being rented. So that would also afford them some time to find inventory to get these units on site by January.
Okay.
So the purpose of the submission then is to ask for the extension
Extension of the
Yes, sir.
temp.
until February 1st.
Yes, sir.
Mike, can you think of anything else that we need to?
And they've used.
I have one question. How are you using those portables right now?
At Prairie View Elementary, there's a fourth grade classroom. In both, it's a dual classroom portable. So there's 2 fourth grade classrooms in there right now, currently. They started the year in the media center, having classes in the media center before we got the temporary occupancy. So as soon as that was given to us, we moved furniture, tables, smart boards, et cetera, out there. So they're currently occupied by fourth grade classrooms. And then at Valley Elementary, one side of one classroom is being utilized by a boost program, special education program with less than 10 students.
Okay.
That's the current usage.
So
right
then
now.
all the punch card information, all the building requirements that were open are all closed now, except for the storm shelter?
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Do I hear a motion to extend the temporary permit?
I move we extend it to February 1st of 2023.
So Ron has the motion. Second?
Who's that? Okay.
You want to vote? Call roll.
Ann Weber? Kyle Lombardo?
Yes.
Tricia Hatley? Of course. Jim McWhirter? Ron Roque? Tommy Willis? And Patrice Zimmerman.
Yes.
Motion passes. We do have the second board
Congratulations, your
case.
motion.
Yeah, we do have the second board case.
Yeah, now I understand it's the exact same.
Yeah. You know, if people want to
Condition.
vote on it or.
Well, so my understanding is the second case is exactly like the first case. You're still planning to have 2
Yes, sir.
shelters shipped. You're going to
Yes,
talk
sir.
to Heath and Greenwood over at KFC and work out a situation where they can provide a third-party review or some engineering to show that the foundations are being installed according to the
Correct.
manufacturer's requirements. If all of that is the same, do we need to take another vote on the second case since it is a second case? Okay. So do I hear a motion on the second case, BOAB 2002-00003? Motion? Tricia, motion? Till February 1st?
Ron with the second. Okay. Ann Weber?
Yes.
Kyle Lombardo?
Yes.
Tricia Hatley? Jim McWhirter? Ron Roque? Tommy Willis? And Patrice Zimmerman.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Now, I
Sincerely
have
appreciate
one
it.
comment. Now, I'm assuming this new elementary, you're planning for the storm shelter.
Oh, yes. In
Okay.
all new construction, yes, that's exactly,
All right,
yes. But yes, good question.
thank you.
Yes. I'll say I've learned a ton through this process. I appreciate you and your insights, and I've had to do a lot of kind of homework and educate myself with regards to how we navigate this process, so it's been enlightening.
Well, it's a long process, and it's full of many turns,
Yeah.
so. we-
It's
we
easier to
all
build a
feel
shelter
your
when you build a
pain.
building. So,
So with that, that completes all our cases. We had no new business.
And if you mind staying
yeah,
right after.
absolutely. Thank you again.
No problem. Thank you.
Do we have a
So-
motion to
Do
adjourn?
do I have a motion to adjourn?
Tommy, second. Okay.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.